Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And a lot of weird shit. Roll to seize!
Welcome to Roll to Seize. This is episode 33. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host and Warhammer enthusiast, Andrew Digginger.
Yes.
Now, Andrew, what has happened in the news recently? Oh my god, we gotta talk about AdeptiCon.
Holy shit. So, Atom Bomb, because 8th edition is right around the corner.
And finally, they're really confirming it.
It's official. It's officially coming. But yeah, the biggest spoilers that they released, other than, revealing the new Death Guard that's coming out. And, this is the biggest shit we've been talking about for a long time. And I know there's a lot of people who are contrary to our opinion with this, but...
And that's fine, by the way. Look, and that's some of the reason why you have different editions. And look, if you really like those older rules in 7th edition, then go ahead, keep playing those rules with your groups and friends. Nobody's stopping you.
But as far as what's coming forward,
we just personally are just very, very excited of what the changes could offer. So let's dive into some of these changes from 8th edition. Now, there's a lot to talk about.
A lot.
Just we're gonna spend a little extra time than we normally would on these episodes to discuss, just because this is such a huge impact on the game that we really think it's worth time to discuss it and really
these are
parse it out.
Massive changes.
Oh, yeah. So let's get into it. I think the first thing we got to talk about is the movement stat coming back to models.
So the first thing we got to clarify is that Age of Sigmar did not start this rule set. This was used in 40k in 2nd edition. I don't know for sure if it was used in previous fantasy, but at least back in the day, 40k used these rules. But yes, adding now a movement stat to all units so dramatically changes how the game is played, because we no longer have that flat 6 or 12-inch move. That means that, we can finally have something like Dreadnoughts moving faster than Marines, which makes total freaking sense.
It also can provide really easy ways for Games Workshop to more or less buff or nerf certain armies and really help armies that have had a difficulty in the past, armies like Orcs or Tyranids, and you can give them a higher mobility and reduce the mobility of some Eldar and some Space Marines and some of the stronger factions, and that really changes the dynamic of how some of these armies play.
Yeah, let me just give you a hypothetical of what this could do for the game. Think of it as if we're taking the Age of Sigmar model. So then you have a unit like Space Marines moves 4 inches. I know it sounds short and everything, but
terrifying.
But you have a unit that has decent close combat capability and shooting, but they're slower movement. Then you have something like Assault Marines that now move 9 inches, something a little bit faster. Then you have something like bikes that move 12 inches. Then you have Eldar jet bikes that move 16 inches. You no longer have these ridiculous flat out moves, but in general, they're speedier, and you're not locked to the same movement as everything else, which is why you had things like Eldar jet bikes getting a 36-inch flat out, is because their base movement was the same as a normal Space Marine.
Right, because there wasn't enough variability across the board, then you had to really ratchet up the speed to really indicate the difference there. But when you have that base movement stat, the difference is already built in and baked into the model itself.
Exactly. And it's easy to even give them a little more speed. If you have what Age of Sigmar stat, which is the run ability, even for things that fly, it's just called blanket run, which is just an extra d6 you add to your movement. If you really want to, then you can make things with wings or jet bikes and stuff get a 2d6 run or something like that.
Right. There's a lot of ways that they can play with that variability, but the really cool thing is it does just straight out of the gate, not only from a rules, just basic rules and strategy standpoint, make the game way more interesting and way more flexible, but also from a fluff standpoint, it also really makes things move like you'd imagine they'd move in the game.
Yeah, and this means that we can get, because they're talking about massively trimming down the special rules section, and I hope they do a War Scrolls type thing where they just
and
put
that's
it
been
all
hinted
on the
at
sheet.
Pretty heavily, which is wouldn't it be nice to just know what your entire dude does by looking at one page?
Well, not just that, but also if they have the rules for free, then that means that without having to buy a book just to know how something functions, that means you can, because this is why I think the sales in Age of Sigmar have shot up so much, is because you can get those war scrolls for free. You can see what a unit does and know immediately if it's something you want to take.
And also what it does is it incentivizes you to look at other armies.
Yes.
Because you can look at their rules before having to purchase a $50, $60 book. Where before, even though you might think like, well, they make money off of codexes, it's like, yeah, that's a one-time purchase, but isn't it better to say, hey, why not take a look at these guys? It doesn't cost you anything to see if you like this army, and now for free you can look at their rules and their units, and that, from a business side, that incentivizes people to try more armies because the barrier of entry and access to that information is so low. It's free, that it's going to encourage players to try other armies instead of just investing in one.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen people more interested in, like, breaking out from a singular army than in Age of Sigmar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just one big thing. I think the second big thing that we saw that we got really excited about is the save modifiers.
Modifiers, oh my god.
It's something that I think 40K, and it's been seen more and more over the years as like the power levels ratchet up. It's the game of sword and shield, right? Where the sword gets bigger and we add more D weapons and we add more Riptide wings and we add more like crazy powers into the game. Your shield must responsively get larger as well. And now we have a game where it's very rock, paper, scissors, and you have a lot of armies just can't die against certain things.
It's like one or the other. It's either you have an army that's nigh unkillable or an army that, like, your save stat doesn't even matter because things just blanket ignore everything in the game. So, I mean, like, even something like Tau, why is it that certain armies rely on cover? And I'm a Tau player, so, like, this isn't the bash on Tau. Like, I play Tau, but it's, you know, you think about it, it's like, man, it is kind of wacky because I'm also a Tyranid player, and Tyranids rely so heavily on cover. And then you have an army that can very
just
easily
blanket ignores it.
Just ignore cover, or have a gun that's possibly their best gun in the Codex, the smart missile system,
by
that
far.
Just has ignore cover and ignore line of sight, which just negates armies. And it's just like,
it also just negates basic strategy and rules in the game.
Yeah.
You just have to be in the 30-inch vicinity to fire a smart missile system.
Whereas if we take the second edition or Age of Sigmar edition of modifiers, then suddenly you'll see something, oh my god, like Terminator armor coming back into the game.
And actually being valid, because now your armor isn't a stock, standard, unmovable armor value. It is a variable armor value depending on what's shooting at it.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the thing, too, is that you can have them, like, you'll have a 2+ save, I hope, is very rare. I hope they get rid of, like, most rerolls in the game or make them very difficult to use.
And I mean, even that, I think that's going to be a lot of what we have seen in it. And again, apologize for bringing in Age of Sigmar so many times, but there are some really smart things that they got to do in there as kind of like a testing ground for what could be applied for 40K. One thing we've seen is things that are supposed to have really durable armor or like more demonic, where it's not really armor, you're kind of just shooting at like demon skin etherealness.
Yes.
They've added things like, well, they're not affected by a certain number of modifiers. Like if you have a -1 modifier to a save, like making a 2+ to a 3+, that armor is not affected by a -1. It's only affected by a -2 or higher. So you can add things like that into characters.
Essentially, an unmodified 2+ is impossible in Age of Sigmar. It's impossible. Like, you can't have stacked shields anymore that would give that sort of thing. Even Seraphon, which is the lizard men, like, they have shields that just ignore Ren -1. So they normally
And we should
have
really
good
quick
saves.
clarify, because I don't think we've even said, if nobody's played Age of Sigmar, there's a rule in the game called Rend. Which is big on this save modifier, where
every attack basically has a Rend stat.
It either has no Rend, which is kind of like your very, very basic attacks, or you have your more powerful attacks or your more powerful guns. So in 40K, they'd be like
-1, -2, -3.
Melta, or you have like Plasma, things like that. Like Plasma might have like a -1 to Rend, so it would turn a 3+ armor into a 4+, while Melta might have like a -2 or a -3 because it's so like ridiculously powerful.
And, you know, people have said like, oh, but, you know, like, that's just the way weapons are, is they're just negating this. But then you think about, like, if you had something cool, like, so Terminator armor is suddenly becoming valid again. Like, imagine having a 2+ save, and that 2+ save is like super rare. Nothing in the game really has stock 2+ saves. And then you go against a Meltagun. Well, Meltagun at regular range, say, would have a -2 to Rend. So they still would have a 4+ save against it, as opposed to just no save.
Yeah.
And then you go at half range, and suddenly Melta's as effective against normal guys as it is against vehicles, because maybe it becomes a -4 Rend now. And suddenly a Terminator is only getting a 6+ save when it's at half range, which not only still allows them a save, but is also still really fluffy that at half range the meltas are more effective.
Exactly.
Like, it's great. Like this could only help the game.
So yeah, so the movement stat, the combat modifiers, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. We don't want to spend the whole episode talking about all these different things, but there's been some new stuff coming out about 8th edition that we're just really pumped about. We really recommend you go online and look it up and check it out. There's some really cool things that might affect how you play your army or affect how you might play a new army in the future. And I'm sure as these months go on and 8th edition finally releases,
see more and more.
We're going to be speaking more and more about the new changes we're going to see. But otherwise, I'm really pumped about the changes that are coming.
Excited. Just a real quick side note: if you haven't seen their joke video of 8th edition, watch it. It's amusing as hell.
It is really, really good. And the best part is that like nowhere in the video at the end do they turn to the camera and we're like, we're just kidding. They're just like, yeah, no. So I like the idea of like a few people only saw that video and they're like, oh my god, I gotta start destroying my models with Deep Strike. Yeah, but I guess right now let's talk about some of the things that have kind of just come out, like the triumvirates.
Now, with regards to the other changes that have happened recently, with regards to, Ynnari suddenly being played, the triumvirates being played, and even Rubout Guillemot being played in the game.
The harder you enunciate, the more correct in his pronunciation.
I just call him Rowboat, but more allusions to Age of Sigmar. Even Rowboat himself has a detachment, because he's a monstrous creature, so he can't join units.
He can't join units, and there's no way that he is ever going to be able to get any sort of lookout sirs or anything. Right, Andrew?
Except that he has a formation.
What?
What? Age of Sigmar, no independent characters can join units, but there's allusions to how they can get lookout sir, but then they can still get targeted by combat by themselves. What is happening?
That's madness. It feels familiar, yet different.
But yeah, I mean, like, the last tournament we played in, he was played by a couple armies and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Because he is awesome.
The one hilarious tidbit with a good old Rubout is because they, in not the 30k version, but the 40k version, they combined his weapons into one. His fist and his sword aren't treated as separate weapons. You just combine all their abilities together.
That's pretty awesome.
The Avatar of Cain is actually immune to him in combat. because
his sword's on fire?
Because his sword has the Soul Blaze rule, and Soul Blaze weapons cannot affect the Avatar of Cain.
That's amazing.
Because he can't use his fists separately. You just have to use them both together and use the Soul Blaze rule. He can't actually hurt the Avatar of Cain, which is hilarious.
Yeah. He shows up to battle and he's like, oh, they got an Avatar? Come on!
The one time the Avatar of Cain's actually useful.
Yeah, the one time he's OP. Oh, man, you brought an Avatar of Cain? So OP, bro.
Yeah, so that's actually
Well,
amazing.
we'll all be eating our words when he can move like 16.
But not with regards to our seasons and everything. Now seeing the Triumvirate guys being used and seeing Ynnari being used, I will say that out of the Triumvirate, we were blasting on Call being like, oh god, but I'd say Celestine's actually the worst of the three.
Celestine, you're talking about the Triumvirate, not the Ynnari Triumvirate.
No,
but
the original Triumvirate. The Fall of Cadia Triumvirate.
OG Triumvirate.
The OG Triumvirate, yes.
Of the OG, yeah. Celestine is just goof.
She's just in a different level.
She is just very strong.
I mean, we've seen shenanigans like making one of her
angels a warlord.
One of her angels warlord, which you just keep bringing back.
As long as it's not dead in that final turn, that thing is just alive and can never be killed.
Indefinitely. But
it calls itself Alfarius, right?
Yeah, of course.
Specific warlord
she
angel.
saw Alfarius and she was like, no,
I can do this better.
But the fact that she's granting hit and run and she's nigh unkillable. I mean, she's just nearly impossible to kill.
Yeah.
And even, she literally resurrects once.
If you can get a reasonable leadership's, role, she basically has 18 wounds.
Yeah. I mean, Call really is only close to untouchable in a cohort, which is a very heavy investment.
But still susceptible to D. He doesn't have Eternal Warrior.
And instant death, yes.
While Celestine, Eternal Warrior, and just a whole bunch of bodies of angels that can take hits for her.
And 5 wounds. 5 wounds is nothing
on
to
top of that,
at.
too.
Wow, she is just so hard to dispatch. Whereas Greyfax, I've only seen Greyfax being useful against her prevention of Deep Strike is what
right.
But she's, I think 160 points is too much for that character. If she was more 120, I think she'd be more valuable, but as far as Ynnari is concerned,
I mean, very reasonable army. I think everyone can agree that their strength from death rule is just spot on. Nobody has any problems with it. There's definitely no confusion about it.
Oh god. Yeah, I mean, that needs, like, they only released a 3-page
That rule
FAQ.
might as well have been its own game.
Yeah,
like,
I was
the game
like,
called Strength from Death. Here's the 10-page rule book of how to play it.
But Jay and I have actually discussed this. A few things about Ynnari. First of all, they needed like a 6-page FAQ, not a 3-page.
Yeah, they still need more rule clarification. Even after maybe the longest FAQ I think I've seen in a while. Like a straight day one patch FAQ still needs more clarification.
Like Jay and I in casual conversations just had the most confusing bout about how does Interceptor work with strength from death?
How does this work then?
Because is it all at once? Is it one by one? Is this happening?
If a storm surge fires, does it get to fire all its weapons or one weapon? And then, just a lot of confusion there.
Yeah, it's just like there's still that thing, and I don't normally say this about armies, but strength from death with a lot of the shit is just straight OP.
It's really good, and I think it's still so young that we haven't really seen the full optimization. I mean,
it's gonna get bad
where we're
fast.
gonna be in like 6 months is gonna be like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
but who knows? I mean, like with anything, you're gonna have counters come out. There are things in other games like Age of Sigmar where, like, you know, the entire meta kind of adapts, where people get used to bubble wrapping units or things like that. Where Ynnari has a lot of strengths in that, you know, you need to be within that 7 inches, which isn't easy, which, by the way, in my C's today, I'm going to talk about. I did play Ynnari at this previous tournament, and it's not super easy to always be within 7 inches, but my army also wasn't Reavers,
it wasn't
Archons,
it
and
wasn't ham
D-sides,
Ynnari.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are things that you can definitely do that, like my evil mind, when I let it go there, I'm like, oh my god!
You know, Jay, why don't we just move into that section now and just...
We might as well start talking about it.
Jump into Seizes of the Month.
So, guys, our Seizes of the Month, if you don't know, that's where Andrew and I talk about our biggest screw-ups from this past tournament in the previous month, and we had some big screw-up ones, and I think I shouldn't bury the lead any longer. I'd probably talk a little bit about that Ynnari goof. So I decided to play Ynnari this previous tournament because I love Eldar. It's what I play, and it's just a whole bunch of new toys.
Well, it also gave a nice boost to Harlequins.
Oh, yeah, which is the thing I was excited about the most, because I was like, oh my god, my Harlequins, while other Eldar units basically lost a rule and replaced it, Harlequins just got another rule.
Yeah, which is like, it's, you know, people were talking about, like the loss of battle focus, except that most Eldar competitive armies used bikes, which didn't have it in the beginning.
That's true.
With, so
well, the Hornets lost it, and the Warp Hunters, so, you know, what are you going to do?
The things that couldn't use
it's like, you didn't know those things are run like the Flintstone vehicles. Little feet come out the bottom, and they push it around.
Exactly, yeah.
That's the secret of Eldar grav technology.
But stop delaying any further, Jay.
Sure. Of telling my terrible tale. So I was running basically a Harlequin Ynnari army. I did have some Oathway Strike Force in there because I wanted to use some of them tasty Oathway treats, and they are pretty nice.
You drank deep of the elixir of drop pod Marines, and
I've always wanted to. I'm like, if only I could also null deploy and just drop shit wherever I wanted. That would be nice. And now Eldar can with Oathway Strike Force. Yeah. I made it very minimal. It's fun to just have a unit that's just one Warwalker. Yeah. So I can just have, if I wanted to, if I did 2 Oathway Strike Forces, where in essentially ITC you can only have 2 copied formations. So I could do 2 Oathway Strike Forces, each with a single Warwalker in each unit. So you could just have 8 Warwalkers in units of their own, just scattered around. But basically, I brought them, and then I brought a bunch of Harlequins. So I brought some Harlequins and Star Weavers. I brought some Sky Weavers. I know these all sound very similar if you don't know Harlequins. Sky Weavers are the jet bike ones.
Well, and the Star Weavers, which are the troop transports, are actually more useful now because as long as they wreck, don't explode.
Oh boy.
Weird ruling.
That FAQ is real dumb. If anyone hasn't read it, there's an Ynnari FAQ where someone called it out, and it was a good question about transports. Now, where they took it ended up very strange, where they said, hey, if an Ynnari transport is wrecked, can the people inside soul burst out of it?
Well, not just an Ynnari transport, but if vehicles in Ynnari.
Vehicles in Ynnari, if they're close and it gets wrecked, can they soul burst from it? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. That makes some good combinations with Star Weavers. They were like, but hold on. If the vehicle explodes, though, you cannot soul burst from it, because Apparently...
Listen, it's a fireball. It's too catastrophic.
It's too scary for them to use that death energy from it, I guess.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyways.
But it makes the Star Weavers actually useful.
Because they can, if the Star Weaver gets wrecked, which it has some invul saves with Harlequin stuff, you can potentially wreck it, and they can actually soul burst from it and potentially charge into a unit if you've like turbo boosted it up next to it. There's a fun combo you can do there with Harlequins. And obviously the Sky Weavers are something similar where you can turbo boost the jet bikes up, hope they kill a unit nearby, and they can charge in with their Zephyr Glaives and do a lot of damage. It's fun.
Yeah.
I also got to bring my new toy, the Yncarne, which, oh boy, love the Yncarne. Unfortunately, this tale is about the Yncarne and not the proper use.
And doing the worst possible decision?
Worst possible choice of the Yncarne. So the Yncarne, if you don't know about it, I think we talked about her in the last episode last month.
Yes.
Was the Yncarne, whenever... It's basically the avatar for Ynnari.
Yeah.
It's basically their avatar of the dead.
As soon as the thing dies.
The Yncarne can appear 1 inch from where anything dies. It doesn't even have to be your units. It can be enemy units. So you can just like instantly teleport it, and you can do it anytime something dies. So it can just jump around the field. It's really awesome.
Which, actually seeing it in play, that movement is ridiculous.
Oh my god. It won me games at the tournament, just jumping the Yncarne around. But one thing you got to keep in mind, and this thing is pretty durable. It's T6. It's got Feel No Pain. It's got an invul save. It's got a 3+ armor save.
Well, and it gets wounds back from guys nearby.
Gets wounds from Eldar that die nearby. Great. Really great. Problem, though. I mean, not problem, but for this example, it is a Psyker, which seems pretty neat. Mastery level 3, very powerful. I was playing a Sisters of Battle army.
Well, you were playing Castellans of the Imperium.
That's true. I was playing Castellans of the Imperium, because there weren't just Sisters in there. There were also some Bikes and a bunch of Iron Warriors, to be specific.
Celestine.
And Celestine. And Celestine was very, very strong. I tried to kill her with no avail, throwing a bunch of Harlequins at her. I did manage to kill her Angel Buddies, which got me Warlord, because the game ended at the right time. This was somebody that actually did the cool trick we were talking about.
Yes.
But basically, the real C's of this story is basically my Harlequins are going up, my Yncarne's waiting in the backfield, waiting for somebody to die. I kill, just surprisingly, I kill an artillery unit right near Codiez, because of course he had Codiez, it's Castellan's. Codiez gives you OBSEC for all of your troops.
Yeah.
Or not all your troops, just all of your non-vehicle units.
All non-vehicle ground
Which,
units.
of course, you take Codiez. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to drop the Yncarne right next to Codiez. I also have a unit nearby, so if they kill that unit, my Yncarne can soul burst on the following turn, on the enemy turn, into Codiez. It'll be really funny. Or attack something else that's nearby. This is great. Now, everybody, we've said this a few times, sometimes it's important to know the stuff in your opponent's army, because he had this single unit, very expensive unit, that has these guns that have these bolts called Contemptor bolts?
They're called Comdemnor.
Comdemnor bolts.
Bolt guns. It's a bolt gun with an attached crossbow.
And guys, crossbows, apparently a pretty big enemy of Psykers, because these things are freaking nasty.
Yeah, you shoot a unit and it forces on a random Psyker within the unit an immediate perils.
Yeah, and I think he had like 6 or 7 people in that unit. It might have been 6. With another item, it made them BS10, and like...
it's called a Psi Oculum. As long as you're shooting at a unit that has a Psyker in it, you are BS10.
Yeah, and this thing hit with every shot, and I rolled really bad for my Perils of the Warp, and that was it. The Yncarne literally exploded because of getting shot with these crazy-ass bolt guns. Or, sorry, cross bolt guns.
Yeah.
And, man, just... that was just a real dumb move on my part, because I basically sacrificed 275 points for free. It didn't even do anything.
Yeah,
just appeared and, hey, let me put it as close as possible to your crossbow people, and now it's dead.
Rather unfortunate that you put it right next to a bunch of Contemptor bolt guns.
Yeah, pretty much. I can say, even though it really bummed me out to watch my Yncarne just explode from psychic bullets, basically, I think it's a really cool thing that the Castellans of Imperium have access to.
Yeah, I think we'll start seeing them more often, especially when, with like things like demons being so popular and being so strong and stuff like that. And then like as soon as you say put something like that in a transport and start like scooting up the field and then being able to shoot out and stuff like that. Yeah, I think the Comdemnor bolt guns are going to suddenly there's going to be a resurgence.
Oh yeah. And seeing the effects of it, I was like, damn, I wish I had some of those.
And don't deep strike your Yncarne.
Yeah, just don't do that. Moral of the story is just don't send a psychic unit near those guys, because they'll shoot them and kill them very easily. Also, read your opponent's army list when they hand it to you.
Probably important.
Hey, you want to read this? Yeah, some Sisters, Celestine, people with guns. Cool. All right, I got it. It's like, all right, well, there you go. So that was my C's. Andrew, what is your C's?
So I've gone full circle here, like full circle here. I have
Circle of life, full circle?
circle of 40K Andrew full circle.
Oh, wow. The most dangerous of circles.
I've gone back to my origins, my first steps into 40K.
Guys, we're getting an origin story. Wait, do your parents die outside of a movie theater and you swear vengeance against criminality forever?
I am the Batman.
I knew it!
I am the Knight.
Wait a second, are you wearing that soul stone again?
No.
I told you not to wear the Batman soul stone. Andrew, give me the soul stone.
No, it's my soul stone.
Don't make me take that soul stone
I'll
off
take
you.
it off, but I'm putting it in my pocket.
Fine.
But
Get that from you.
full circle, meaning that I've gone all the way back around to my NIDs. Now, obviously, NIDs are in a bad way right now. Their codex is
not 7th edition?
It's still not 7th edition.
Andrew, what's coming out very soon? Is it 8th edition?
It's 8th edition, and we still don't have a Tyranid update. And their book's kind of in a bad way that most of the units are not good.
Well, except for the Burninator thing, right?
Oh, yes,
that
right.
we did a segment on?
Yes, we did a segment on Pyrovores, which are still arguably one of the worst units in the game.
I mean, we made a beautiful, devastating army with.
I will say that drop pods give them a new breath of sometimes useful, but usually not great.
A breath of fiery air, you might say?
Fiery air, yes. Yes, I guess. But I was playing a Nidless. Now, I did have a Genestealer First Curse in it. Genestealer Cult First Curse, sorry.
Because the first curse is pretty amazing.
I love it. A lot of people think it's overcosted and ridiculous, but I think, like, for a Death Star that's not a Death Star, like, it's a really fun unit to play. And man, when you roll that 6, or that if they're your Warlord and like you roll that 6 for the Warlord trait, like, just getting that charge when you want 3 inches away thing with 20 Stealers and a Patriarch.
That's a warm 40k blanket.
Oh,
right
that
there.
blanket is glorious. So I was playing it was actually a relatively cool Nid list, just sort of like all over the place. I only had one Flyrant, and like I was actually using
Blasphemy.
Tyranid Prime and all this other stuff.
Jesus, who are you?
Yeah, I know, right? I was using a Tyrannifex and a drop pod.
Well, look, hold on. Let's clarify. You only had one Hive Tyrant because they notoriously hate you.
I do have bad luck with
Did this Hive
Flyrants.
Tyrant kill itself in the story?
It did not kill itself, but I still had the worst luck possible, like a 1 in 2,000 chance that something happened.
Well, good. As long as we're keeping consistent.
It's gonna be in the game of my C's, but not the C's.
When the new Tyranid book comes out in 9th edition, they'll definitely have
How about go fuck yourself?
they'll have a rule in there. It'll be like the anti-Andrew rule.
Okay, so basically, I was using a Tervigon, and now this is something that's pretty cool that happened with Games Workshop's update to Tyranids. One little silent change that they did with the FAQ is that Tervigon.
They snuck a little Tyranid buff in
They were
there.
like, we'll give you a little shit.
Oh man, how hard have we fucked Tyranids over? Real hard? Okay, well, I don't like to change, but I guess we'll give them a tiny buff.
So Tervigons now, they ruled that, well, Tervigons, if they're taken as a troop choice in the only detachment that Tyranids had, which is a CAD, other than Leviathan.
What? The super powerful Tyranid CAD?
But in a CAD, your troops are OBSEC, so you can get Tervigons as troops when you take 30 Termagants. So that you have an OBSEC, but now they also ruled that as long as the army has OBSEC, that any Termagants spit out by a Tervigon are also OBSEC.
Well, what?
So that's pretty powerful when considering that you can either put them in a drop pod or give them outflank through Hive Commander as long as they're a troop through a Flyrant, which is what I did. And this is my C's. So
And so begins.
I was playing in my second match against a Renegades list, and as we know, Renegades won LVO.
They're good.
They are a very strong army.
Is it because they have a rule where if you pay 1 point, you get 50,000 guns? All with ignore cover?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, they don't all ignore cover, but
Only?
they do.
Not
some,
all of them?
No.
That's just a shame.
They do some crazy stuff. They also, because their artillery becomes like elites and heavies and stuff like that, they can take tons of it. And I mean tons of it. Like, I will just give you a snippet of what this guy had. He had, I think it was either 4 to 6 rapier laser units.
Yeah, you guys can't see this. Andrew's actually using an abacus right now.
Yes.
It's a 40k abacus, though, so it's alive, so don't touch it for too
Which
long.
rapier laser units are BS3 twin-linked 36-inch range las cannons.
Not bad.
3 of those per unit. So he had those. He had 3 units of 2 wyverns, which everybody knows are
Everybody loves wyverns.
so good. And then he also had, I think, 4 Earthshaker batteries.
Oh, God.
So there's this guy in the unit also called an Ordnance Tyrant that he has this rule that if he's within 12 inches of an ordnance of any type, whatever it is, like some kind of artillery piece, they can fire into combat, which is crazy.
Which I love the idea that he's so crazy.
They just give no shit.
That he's just like, sir, those are our men in there. He's like, fucking shoot them.
Yeah.
Just like, that's like, nobody asked this guy another question after that. They're like, I guess we're shooting at our guys.
So that's insane because my stuff can't even hide in combat, which is nuts. And like the rest of his army was basically just like 6 units of 3 spawn and like a bunch of zombies.
Oh yeah, so many spawn. I remember that.
Yeah, and I mean a bunch of zombies because you can't help.
Zombies? Now, hold on. I heard that's like a tax unit. They're not very good, right? Zombies?
Yeah, the fearless 4+ feel no pain. Like
3-point model?
I think they're 4 points. But,
okay.
Or yeah, I think
ooh,
they're
that
4
balanced
points.
them out. You're right.
But yeah, like a bunch of zombies. Basically, we were playing Vanguard Strike, which is the corners game, and this is where the Seas comes into play. I
think everyone should really keep in mind this is Vanguard Strike is the
Vanguard, meaning that your table
now
edge,
Andrew didn't remember this, but we want all of you to remember.
It means that the table edge is still the long table edge, but you deploy in corners. Important, very important. So he basically, with all this stuff, like he filled his deployment edge, like that corner, like he had no room for anything else.
Of course,
it was all there to
artillery.
The I mean, it was like over 100 models and all this crazy stuff.
Holy God!
So like, yeah, it was a ton of stuff filling his side. Well, I was like, the only way that I can fight for primary on this is to fight for one of his objectives. Essentially, just block his objectives. Especially if I could kill his zombies, then he has no obsec, and then I can have my Tervigon, who I outflank. Outflank, is that?
Yeah, outflank.
Outflank?
Well, I believe Tervigon's outflank. Everything else outflanks.
Yeah, that's right. So I use the Tervigon. Normally, I outflank him because that's the best strategy that I've found, because he comes in from an edge, he's obsec, then everything he's spitting out is obsec, and it's just like this annoying...
It's just an obsec spit fest.
This is annoying blob in the backfield that you can't get rid of, because even a Tervigon is 6 wounds with a 3+ save. It's a pain in the ass to get rid of. So I'm like, I gotta stop him from capturing one of his objectives, which means that I was like, okay, I just need to blow a hole in his line, and then I'll come in from that edge that I can totally come in from.
Andrew, which edge were you planning to come in on?
It was a long edge. It was long edge. It was totally cool.
Of course.
Totally doable.
Of course.
And I think because of my frustration, I didn't realize, I was also rolling bad for reserve rolls, and he was just never coming in, but like, I didn't realize that I needed a second durable unit to capture my second objective in order to at least tie for primary and maybe squeak a win, because I had started to take the lead with Maelstrom, like, because he didn't really have mobility,
right? He can't get out to get all those objectives
other than with his spawn. And ironically, man, I rolled the ideal psychic powers for my first curse, and one of them I rolled was endurance, which I only failed for 1 turn, and that unit held like 5 units of spawn and a unit of 20 zombies basically the whole game. Except for the last turn, which was crazy. And unfortunately, he at one point skyfired at my Hive Tyrant. We're talking about how the Hive Tyrant died in the most obscure way possible.
Oh, right. We can't leave that out. It has to die in every one of your stories.
Hive Tyrant flies up, and he snap fires at it with las guns. Manages to wound it. I managed to fail a 3+ save.
The flashlights brought it down?
Yes. Managed to fail a 3+ save, managed to fail my grounding test, and then managed to wound it, bringing him down to 2, and then he got charged by 6 zombies, and the 6 zombies killed him on 6s.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened. So that's how I use tyrants is like that, which is why you can understand.
How I use tyrants is I get them killed by flashlights.
Yeah.
This is a great story for young Imperial Guards out there. Young Imperial Guards, you too can kill a Hive Tyrant.
But yeah, so the long story short, my Seas comes into play is like, I didn't have any real good unit to step out and capture my second home field objective because it was in the open, and I didn't realize until too late that the only thing that could really challenge it was this 1 unit of 2 spawn. The only ones that were able to really break out from his lines, because he was nailing, if I had moved up at all, he would have nailed my backfield unit of termagants that had a prime attached with the wyverns. You just would have blown them to pieces. So like, I had to sit back, but then I waited too long, and if I had just had my Tervigon just sit in my backfield, like, he really doesn't fear wyverns at all. Like,
right.
Who cares? Like, he has to wound me on 6s even with shred, and he doesn't penetrate my army. I don't give a shit. And he can spit out guys every turn, which it's not kill points, so it's just like, might as well just
Yeah, just send more dudes out there.
Here's more OBSEC going on that objective. No, I decided to outflank him, outflanked him.
Yep,
and
that's the correct term.
Thought I could come in from his table edge, and there was a hole, and I was like, oh, fuck. This is Vanguard, which means I only come in from the short edges, and there's literally no objective. Like, the closest objective to one of the short edges was like 18 inches away.
Wow.
And it finally came in, and I was like, well, this is fucking useless.
Well, you were wondering why it took him so long. He had to get all the fuck way over there because it's not the long edges, it's the short edges.
Now we did retcon it. Now it ended up being actually a really good game, and it was close. I lost 11-9 with the new ITC scoring system and everything, but it was a really close fucking game. And this is a guy, like, he's a really good player. He went 5-1 at LVO, and like, he's
really cool dude too.
Very cool dude, knowledgeable in the game, very cool guy, great game. It was the best game of the day, and I was happy to even squeeze out the 9 points that I got.
And you also got your Hive Tyrant killed.
And
so
wow,
I mean, that's
just salt in the wound.
I can't let you forget it.
Just salt in the wound, Mister. I'm gonna deep strike an Yncarne right next to Comdemnor boltguns.
Anybody can make that mistake.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, people who don't read armies.
I didn't read anything. Wow. Well, that was a great seas. All great seasons all around. We're very sad. And that'll take us into the Brown Library. So I hear Terra's doing really well these days.
Yeah, I mean, nothing crazy going on there.
Yeah, they've, something's happening, like an election.
Dark Angels are real happy right now.
That's what I've been hearing. They've, like,
long lost brothers coming
back, and it's just been a really great welcoming party for everyone.
It's a good thing we're not talking about any of that with the Brown Library.
Oh, definitely not.
So this month, we're actually talking about something that is actually relevant to our Seasons of the Month that we just had.
You don't say.
That's right. So we're going to be talking about Tyranids.
What?
We haven't talked about Tyranids in a while, actually.
We haven't. That's true.
We're talking about a unit actually relevant to my Seas and relevant to the Games Workshop FAQ, and that unit is the Tervigon.
Old Momma Tyranid herself.
Yep, the spawn progenitor whose sole purpose is to poop more termagants out.
Yeah, a lot of fiber. The Tervigon.
So much fiber.
Just so many protein bars.
All fiber?
Yeah.
It's just fiber.
All fiber all the time.
But yeah, the Tervigon is a Tyranid monstrous creature that it's a synapse creature, so it is a node for the hive mind. But
is it?
Yes, it is a synapse creature, which it's part of its fluff is that it's essentially a forward assault unit to reinforce positions by spawning more termagants.
Yeah, it's a really great way to reinforce if you need an area. Like, just drop a Tervigon there and just a whole bunch of guys.
I mean, unlike demons summoning guys in, Tervigons just move up and poop out more guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is possible for them to poop too hard, though.
Whoa. Can they pull something?
I guess they pull something.
So hernias is a real big problem with Tervigons.
Yeah, so maybe? So basically how a Tervigon works, what happens is during the movement phase, they roll 3 dice. Mm-hmm. And the dice numbers that you roll is the number of termagants that they spawn. Spawn within 6 inches like a transport. But if they roll a double, then they can't poop any more guys
They've
out.
pooped too hard.
They have pooped too hard.
Too much fiber.
Got
to get a little bit of yogurt in there.
Way too much strawberries.
So, really...
to soften it up a bit?
Soften it up, yeah.
But yeah, so it is possible that you could literally go all game and just keep pooping guys out. Or you could, on first time you do it, just roll a double unluckily, and then that's all you get. But now with the new FAQ to Tyranids, not only are troop Tervigons OBSEC, but the guys they poop out are OBSEC, which means you could just, in one of my games, my first game, ironically, against a Harlequins player, my outflanking Tervigon came on, properly placed this time, and didn't poop out the entire game. And we went 6 turns. And
it was just going.
It came in turn 2 and made 5 more units.
It had some fiery food, and it was just going bananas.
It had Taco Bell, and it was just like a steady stream.
That is terrifying. That's the true bioweapon of the Tyranid army, is Taco Bell.
That's right.
Taco Bell still survived to the 40k millennium. It's just been absorbed by the Tyranid fleet.
That's what happened in the Age of Stray.
We wonder what happened to it, and it was just absorbed by them.
But yeah, so that unit literally ended up spawning an additional probably 230 points of termagants.
Holy
it was
crap.
Crazy because I also never spawned below 9 guys, so it was just like he just gave up on that side. He was like, that objective is just lost to the Age of Strife. And it's just buried in bodies at that point because there was it was literally 50 termagants there by the end of the game with an untouched Tervigon behind it.
And it's really nice that they're OBSEC. When they come out, does the Tervigon sit them down and now listen, you guys are going to be real objective grabbers. I don't want you getting out there getting crazy.
Yeah,
over there and grab them.
Gives them the newborns a good pep talk.
Oh, that's good.
Because they are newborns.
They are.
Babies, the worst babies. But
yeah, you're right. You know, I don't think people think about this enough that really when you're fighting Tyranids, you're just shooting a whole bunch of babies.
That's right. I mean, everything is literally only like a couple days to weeks old.
Yeah,
so.
you monsters out there.
Monsters.
Can't wait for that baby codex to get an update.
But there's a couple reasons significantly why Tervigon stopped being used, because they were all the rage for a long time.
They were.
Specifically 5th edition, they were like, holy shit.
Yeah, couldn't get enough of those Tervigons.
6th edition, they started to teeter out as soon as they weren't, the OBSEC stuff started happening and they weren't OBSEC anymore. And the other reason is the change to Psychic Backlash. Now, Psychic Backlash is like when a Tervigon dies, because it's acting as a node for all these termagants, when it dies, it's like there's like a feedback,
like
essentially.
A psychic backlash ripple onto the rest of the little guys.
Into their minds, like literally like frying their brains out. And they extended the range of it to 12 inches. So,
what was it before?
It was 6 inches before.
A lot more manageable.
Which means that, like, because the 6 inches is like, it's dangerous if you have them close, but you can put them beyond that, and then they're fine.
Yeah.
With 12 inches, it's like, shit, I guess I have to have them all, like, barely touching that 12-inch for Synapse, so they're fearless, but, like...
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that, because the Synapse.
Ooh. So the key is essentially, because it's treated like a shooting attack, you only keep one guy within the 12, and then when it happens, because what happens is every unit of Termagants within 12 inches has to roll 3d6. They take that many hits at strength 3.
Wow.
And those guys are only toughness 3, and they have 6+ saves. So it's like...
So you're just blowing up a bunch of...
You could lose entire units to the Psychic Backlash.
Holy crap.
It's really bad, and it's just kind of like, I don't know.
I still don't know why people stopped using them. That's so crazy.
But like I said, you treat it as a shooting attack, which means if you keep only one guy inside, because the range is only 12 inches, that means that even with 3d6, you could only ever lose one guy. Like,
okay.
That's the way you get around
That's
it.
good.
Now, unfortunately, when spawning them, they have to be within 6 inches, which means if he gets...
So you take some time to get him out of that range.
If he gets killed immediately afterwards spawning them, basically all the guys you just spawned are probably dead.
Oh, for sure.
So I can understand to an extent why people didn't use them, but with the advent of drop pods and even getting things like the outflank maneuver that you can give to Hive Tyrants, and now with them all being OBSEC, you can bury armies in OBSEC units that are all fearless. And I didn't think it was that bad until I really assembled this list, and I was like, this is really, really optimized. This could actually endanger a lot of things. And people are like, oh, but what about Wraith Knights and stuff? I was like, just forget about them. Just put a unit of 30 Termagants into it and laugh, as it literally never kills any of them.
Stomps forever.
And there's a Tervigon just next to it, just pooping out an endless supply of additional Termagants to charge
guys,
into
go.
them. So yeah, you could just bury them forever. So this list is called the Flood.
Ooh,
because
I like it.
This is meant to just literally overwhelm. I don't normally build swarm Tyranid lists.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not usually building very much like the Green Tide kind of lists. It's usually, you're kind of in the opposite direction. Usually it's like, how small of a list can I make this?
Can I
5
have
guys?
a list 20 guys or less?
I believe with your Adeptus Mechanicus, didn't you get it down to 9 models at a certain point?
I do. I may or may not have a demons list that is 10 models.
Pretty low.
But yeah, I like elite armies. It plays to my style. I don't normally do well with horde and stuff like that. One, because it takes me longer to decide where to place them, and then to actually move them takes time, and it's just also I get way behind with my painting, and painting a lot of models is just oh. But this list is it's solely focused on how much shit can you get on the field, but also unlike some of our other lists, which may not be that competitive, I was let's make this as competitive as possible.
Our lists are very competitive. I believe the one with the Burninator Tyranid is probably out there winning tournaments.
The Howling Banshee one too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Howling Banshees are killing it these days.
Yeah.
Especially because you can totally put them in a Dark Eldar transport. Right, GW? Right? They're in the same goddamn army, yet they can't share vehicles? Why? Sorry, everybody.
Little rage moment there.
I'm sorry. It just makes no freaking sense.
It doesn't make sense. I will agree with Jay that it doesn't make sense, but oh well. Moving on. So basically what's in this list? Well, we have to have a CAD. Gives everything OBSEC, all of our troops OBSEC.
But what about all those other Tyranid formations?
They have formations, Jay. They just don't have detachments.
Gotcha.
Salt in the wound, Jay. Salt in the wound.
I meant detachments. What about all those other detachments?
So our 2 HQs are Hive Tyrants, obviously. Winged Tyrants with double devourers and electroshock grubs, because they're your best. Just handle everything awesome units.
They are just great.
They bring a fearless bubble. They bring psychic to the table, and unbeknownst to most people, their psychic powers are actually pretty damn good.
Yeah. And those electric grubs are pretty good against vehicles.
I mean, having a flamer template of Haywire is never a bad thing, and you can land and bait knights into a charge and then get that wall of flame just with Haywire.
Nice.
I've done that more than once, and it's hilarious.
Like, oh crap, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then they died of freaking Overwatch. It's hilarious. I love it. But then they also, both Hive Tyrants have Hive Commander to give 2 of the troops outflank.
Oh, really?
Very useful. Then our troop section is where like the meat of the list is. We not only have 1, not only 2, but we have 3.
3 Tervigons!
3 troop Tervigons. The Tervigons themselves having electroshock grubs as well.
Oh, they can get them?
They can get them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's only 2 or 3 things in the game that can actually get them, or in the Tyranid army. 1 is Hive Tyrants, 2 is Tervigons, and the last is Tyrannofexes.
I was hoping you were going to say the Burninator things.
Oh man, if they could get it, that would be a whole new level.
Actually, I guess that's true. If you could just have a whole bunch of those Haywire dudes running around.
A unit of 3 that has Strength 5 flamers that are also Haywire, like that changes so many things.
Make it happen, GW.
But yeah, I would love that unit. If their unit is actually, it's just like a host swarm for one of 3 different swarms, that'd be cool as fuck. I would totally use that. That would also make them variable. Anyways, back to it. So our troops are 3 Tervigons. They all have electroshock grubs. They all have crushing claws. Crushing claws, it's 15 points. It's a bit of contention, but I actually think it's really important. Tervigons are strength 5 base. This gives them strength 6.
Those things are only strength 5?
They're only strength 5.
They're gigantic.
Yeah, but it's like the strength isn't in the...
Wait, do they have T-Rex arms? Is that what they have?
They have little scything talons.
Little T-Rex hands?
It's more of the strength is in the pooping and not in the fighting.
That's where all the muscle is, in the back.
It is, in fact, in the back. They literally have a giant vagina sack that's pooping Tervigons.
If you're going to make a bunch of those little guys, that's where you got to work out, man.
But crushing claws are important, I think, 1, because it gives them +1 strength. 2, it's unwieldy, which is unaffected by monstrous creatures, so they can drill strike in initiative 2. And 3, because it gives them armor bane.
That is key.
Armor bane is very important for 2 reasons. 1, because it actually gives them something to fight knights if knights happen to focus them, but not insta-kill them with like a D weapon or something like that. Or if it's a shooting knight and it doesn't have a D weapon, then it can actually legitimately threaten a knight.
Right.
2 is
on 8s or higher, they're doing glancing or penetrating.
Exactly. And then also as well, this means they don't have to smash,
which is nice.
That's also nice to have. Also because even just like regular things like drop pods, which you never really want to have to shoot or kill, but they're always just kind of there. And then when you make them
buildings,
and then when you make them obsec, suddenly they're a real problem. So it's just like,
Well, luckily, no Space Marine armies run obsec drop pods.
Right. That's right. That's exactly.
That is never a problem.
That's correctly. So. That's exactly correct. So then you give them this, and then they can go. They can have drop pod duty and stuff like that, and go after drop pods and stuff.
That is nice.
So I would say always take crushing claws. It's 15 points. It's really not much. Yeah. You're already paying for a 200-point model.
Treat yourself. Treat yourself on those claws.
Yeah, it's a 6-wound monstrous creature that's fearless with a 3+ save. The thing is resilient.
Yeah, you might as well give it some cool stuff.
And it makes it more threatening to things in close combat. So why is that a problem? Yeah. And then to make those guys troops, you have to take units of 30 Termagants.
Do you have to take 30 Termagants for each?
For each.
Oh my god, so you have to have 90 Termagants?
So the rest of the troops is 90 Termagants.
Holy crap. You were correct when you said lots of freaking dudes.
I literally, the flood. You drowned them.
Wow.
You drowned them in obsec
I thought you just
bodies.
meant just because you're going to be pooping out so many guys.
No, this is 6 units. This is 93 models base.
Oh my god.
That all have obsec, and then the guys pooping out stuff all have obsec. Like the entire... You
think your rhinos can capture things?
Oh yeah. You just coat the board.
Look at my wave of Termagants.
Coat the board, and it's all fearless. Like that's another thing that cannot be underestimated. Like we were talking about renegades, like zombies are fearless units. Yes, they have the 4+ feel no pain, but but most of the guns in the army negate that, so not a huge deal.
Right, because they're only T3.
But these are guys that are fearless. They also have guns. They're carrying bolt pistols, so that's never a bad thing.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually are more comparable in close combat than the zombies are. So, it's 4 points. They're the same cost as a zombie. So, not bad.
No, not at all.
So these 30 termagants, once again, because we have... So this is where the uniqueness comes into play. We have 3 Tyrannocytes with the army. Now, Tyrannocytes are the Tyranid drop pods.
Oh, right.
And these are important because you put all 3 Tervigons in a Tyrannocyte because they can carry either a single monstrous creature or a unit of 20 guys.
Oh, so you're running the flood of guys up and then drop podding these dudes around.
Even more unique. So there's what you have as the core of the army is these termagants. You actually only deploy the 2 Hive Tyrants and 1 unit of termagants, and then a Malanthrope. You have to have a Malanthrope.
I mean, Malanthrope is kind of like the staple Tyranid unit.
Best 85-point unit.
It's the 85-point shrouded upgrade for every unit.
Yeah, it's just it's so good, especially for turn 1 if you're not going first and you're going to get
and
alpha
especially
struck.
for an army that's severely lax in vulnerable saves.
Exactly. So then you have that Malanthrope. He's basically sitting, he's your backfield grabber. Now he's with a 30-man unit of termagants, giving them fearless, giving them shrouded, so if you have an objective in a...
They're going to hold on to that
ruin,
thing. I mean, it's...
good luck.
2+,
unless you're in range of something like wyverns, like a bunch of wyverns, but in my game, I have my objective in my back, and he couldn't get into range with them.
And a lot of that comes down to the strategy of where you place objectives when the game starts.
Exactly.
Which is something we've talked about in previous episodes, but that is a key part of strategy in games.
Yeah, so have fun trying to get rid of 30 OBSEC termagants that are fearless with shrouded and with 2+ cover and a ruin. It's just a nightmare. And then the other 2 units of termagants have outflank, thanks to the Hive Tyrants. And then the 3 units of Tervigons are all in drop pods. And the drop pods for the Tervigons is important. This is what I learned in my Cs, was specifically with where the Tervigon comes in, is one, you want to have a drop pod so that you can't mishap. Because you can't mishap unless you go off the board with them, which is unless you have to danger close it, never put them within 12 inch of an edge.
Yeah, whenever you see people doing drop pods, they're always doing that 12-inch measure.
Where's the 12
Just
inch?
in case, because you always think it's not going to move 12, and then it's definitely going to go 12.
And then that one time it happens, and that one time you roll a 1, and you're like, fuck.
There goes an entire unit.
But it's also important because, drop pods, the drop pod lands, and then the unit deploys out 6 inches, and then, that deployment out means you could get really good placement, and with the Haywire Flamers, suddenly
that's
they're
right.
really precision Haywire Flamers, and even something like a Knight. If you get all 3 of those guys in and you have both your Flyrants in the air, you could just threat saturation on every angle and be like, where's your shield going up?
Yeah.
Shield goes up here, then you get this. Then shield goes up here, and you get this. And then it's you can try and charge my Tervigon, except that I'm going to have a wall guaranteed of Termagants in the way because they come out, they move out, then they get to dump a free unit out, and then they get to flame and do their other stuff. And then if they haven't burnt out, then another unit next turn, and the units are coming in from the edges. So it's just there are Termagants everywhere.
God.
And the goal of this, it is somewhat killy. It has the means to kill certain things. It definitely struggles, depending on psychic powers, against things like gargantuans and stuff like that.
Right.
Which its goal was more to just bury them, essentially, and
That's how it handles it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It does a little bit like the Wolf Star, the puppies.
Exactly. I mean, even against a Wolf Star, against a Bark, the way that you handle it in that is there's no way a Bark's getting. If you're afraid of Bark, just have the 90 guys on the board, and they're fearless, and just trickle them in, have them in a long line so they keep filing in.
Just the endless fight against a fearless unit of...
they're just never getting out of combat. It's just
they're all just running in.
You just conga line it.
Let's do it.
Conga line it so they can't get their attacks to bear.
Bark's oh man.
And then your other Tervigons are coming in his backfield, and Bark's not OBSEC, so if they're in combat and there's objectives there, it's I'm scoring this, so you can't do anything about it. So that's
pretty goofy.
Yeah, so that is the entire army. That's all. It's 1850 points on the dot, but that actually, even in the competitive scene, is a real hard army to fight, because I was even thinking about things like Ynnari now and stuff like that. And there's so many units.
And there's so many bodies. That's the key thing. And really the thing that pops Strength from Death off to being such an amazing thing is
MSU.
Is MSU and killing MSU armies, because it truly does. Ynnari is a really cool balance to the meta right now, where MSU is just everywhere, right? If I can have only 5 guys, I'll do it instead of 10. Well, Ynnari love that, because the easier they can kill your small unit, the more they can pop off extra shots, But when you're shooting into a unit of freaking 30 fearless dudes, it's like, well...
That potentially have shrouded.
Yeah, and Ynnari, oh man, I can't tell you enough. Ynnari love things that are in the air because they have so much skyfire.
Yeah, I mean, like, yes, the two Hive Tyrants...
No one could tell I was being sarcastic. Yeah, they have none.
The two Hive Tyrants basically doing whatever the fuck they please.
Yeah, just flying around, burning stuff, shooting stuff.
I mean, the Hive Tyrants are just so good. They may be cursed when I use them,
of course.
But I mean, like, as far as
But you guys won't have that special rule on your Hive Tyrants.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, like, this, like, I was like, how competitive can this army be? And in the ideal scenario, and this is what's ridiculous about it, in the ideal scenario, turn 2, you have not 1, not 6, but 9 OBSEC fearless units on the field.
Yeesh.
9 of them.
It's a lot.
And that's assuming they don't poop out, and then you make more.
You just keep making more.
And it's just like, oh my god, like you just can't
really
get
the
rid
only
of it all.
downside of this army is how many freaking termagants they're gonna have to put together.
And just have
so many.
Just have, because I mean,
you're gonna have to bring a case that's just termagants.
Yeah, I mean,
just like a whole pile of them.
It's just a vending machine. It's just like a constant trickle of how many do I need? Let's just punch in 14. There we go. There's more. At least you can recycle the ones that die and just have them as new ones.
That's true. But now, Andrew, I'm expecting very high quality paint jobs on every single one of these tiny little termagants.
I don't want to paint 90 termagants, let alone
90 is the minimum that you would be painting.
60 more just to be safe.
Whew. That's a lot. Wow. Well, I love it. The Flood, right?
The Flood, yes.
That's a great list. Guys, that was episode 33 of Roll to Seize. We'll be posting a new episode of the segment every last Wednesday of the month, with episodes of Dark Heresy the first and second Wednesday, and 40K Arena every third Wednesday. And if you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, because we have quite a few on the network,
we do,
head over to partialarc.com. You can email us any questions at rolltoseize@gmail.com, or chat with us on dakadaka.com and help decide the next Brown Library segment. Search for Fluffy/underrated units in the 40K general discussion forums.
Or you can just search Roll to Seize and you'll also find us.
That's true. Or ping us on Facebook. We're just all over places. Speaking of which, you can always follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for tournament and model picks at Partial Arc. Thanks for listening, and your fun fact for this month is...
So Tyranids are both the oldest and the youngest army in the galaxy.
Right. As we've already discussed, they're an army of babies.
Well, all the spaceships are like older than you can imagine.
Oh yeah, because they've been traveling through space for millennia.
But yeah, and then like things like Hive Tyrants and stuff, like they never really die. They just get reabsorbed into the hive mind.
So their minds might be like the oldest thing in the universe.
They're just like using bodies over and over again.
Yeah, that's crazy.